Good morning and happy Easter. My name is Connie Purcell, and it is my privilege to serve as your worship associate today. Welcome to our service on Zoom. I'm glad you could join us. Tapestry is a place where there's no revealed truths, and we don't promote any revealed truths, and there's no scripture or human being that we accept as infallible. This is a place for searching for truth. We believe in intellectual freedom, we believe in justice, we believe in compassion and concern for each other and the whole world. We believe in commitment to those ideals which make us caring and active in the struggle for human dignity. Here, we are committed to honoring diversity. You are welcome here, whatever your background or belief. We are a welcoming congregation, and we are open to those who share our values of free thought and lifelong learning. Here, your reason is honored and your need to serve others is fostered. We come here to practice loving our neighbor and loving our whole selves. So this hour is an opportunity to reflect and open ourselves to encounter the sacred. And we may all define sacred slightly differently. Once again, welcome to Tapestry, a Unitarian Universalist congregation. Thank you for your patience as we are all learning this new way to have a service on Zoom. Please remember to keep your microphone muted throughout the service. And of course, we can see your smiling faces though. I'm going to light a virtual chalice and, well, actually I'm going to light a candle here at home. And I encourage each of you to light a candle or a chalice if you have one handy at home while I light my chalice in a moment. So, but first of all, let's greet each other using the chat function. Okay, now I am lighting my candle at home. And you can do so along with me if you have a candle.
Where's my candle? I'm gonna have to, I think you can.
I can turn mine off.
And if you turned your microphones on to chat, turn them back off. I want to highlight a few announcements, things that are going on at Tapestry here. By the way, you can continue your conversations after the service, and the Zoom meeting will be open for that purpose for you to use the chat function. So as far as announcements go, you know that we always have interesting and fun events for people of every age and interest. And even though we're isolated, we are still active with several meetings, mostly on Zoom, maybe exclusively on Zoom. And there are social justice actions that you can take from home. And some of you may have seen some emails from Rona Henry or Cheryl Hagan with suggestions about things you can do while you're hunkering down. And let me just highlight a few items. The Comprehensive Planning Committee has engaged a team of business students from Cal State Fullerton to help Tapestry assess our strengths and potential areas for growth. And to that end, they are sending out an online survey. And there will be a link to the survey in the chat box at the end of the worship service. And it's also being emailed to all on the Tapestry mailing list. And I already got my email, so you may have gotten yours too. If you didn't know what it was and you accidentally deleted it, you can fish it out of your recycle bin and take the survey. It will be really helpful to the Comprehensive Planning Committee as they try to plan what we're going to do for the next 5 years and how we're going to grow. Okay, also, the nominating committee is working hard to fill several open positions on the Tapestry board, including the VP of Operations and also some committee chair positions. If you are a member and you would like to get more involved with Tapestry, you can reach out to Penny Kinnear or Amanda Standish Wainwright, and they will give you more information. I'd also like to remind you that there is a community meditation every Wednesday at 7 p.m. by way of Zoom. There is a TGIF lunch with your Tapestry friends that you can also join by Zoom on Fridays at noon. And more information about other things that are going on with Tapestry you can find in the order of service, the newsletter, or on the Tapestry website. I'd like to offer a few comments on our theme. Our theme this month is God. Just, you know, an easy thing to talk about. And of course, we know that God means something probably different for every single one of us. Reverend Kent talked about what God means to him last Sunday in his sermon. And today, he'll be talking about how Unitarian Universalism transitioned from its Christian beginnings to something more theologically diverse. So for me, this raises a question about what you do believe today, especially in this difficult time of a pandemic where we're isolated. In difficult times, our human nature is to reach out to something beyond ourselves to hold on to. We naturally long for something we can count on. For some, that is God, however you define God, or the divine. But what about the skeptics and the agnostics? What do those individuals hold on to? What do they place their faith in? Some people think of faith as a device that allows them to trust in a positive outcome when the alternative is too upsetting to consider. Others may believe in their fellow man to be basically good and honest, and that allows them to carry that idea of faith with them in their daily interactions and relationships. Faith begins when a person chooses something or someone in which to trust. For some, it may be science, nature, a certain community like Tapestry, or your family or a spouse. Or it might be a career such as medicine, law, the ministry, or an avocation such as music or art. Whatever it is a firm belief that those pursuits or those people will consistently provide support or a predictable outcome. This world is full of people and things in which we can invest our faith. Whatever we choose, our faith or trust is evident in our strong allegiance to whatever that object is, or that pursuit, that group, or that person. We want to believe that our faith leaders and elected officials will provide good advice for us to follow. Sometimes they give good advice, and sadly, sometimes they disappoint us. So it may ultimately fall on us to weigh all the information provided and make our own best decision about what to believe and then how to act. That might mean listening to the opinions of the scientific, medical, or legal communities, or an educational organization, and trusting that that knowledge and wisdom can be relied on, and that if we listen, things will turn out all right in a few weeks or a few months. It means perseverance, even though the end result might be unknown. Some of us also put a certain amount of faith and trust in the lessons of history. For example, the world has seen pandemics before, And we know that civilizations have recovered and endured. Yes, there may be a period of transition to reach some sort of new normal, but those with faith and trust hold firmly that such a recovery will indeed happen. Finally, we put our trust in our tapestry community, even though we aren't meeting in person. Some of us are connecting in small groups by phone or Skype or FaceTime. Some are having committee meetings and various interest groups by Zoom. Even though it isn't quite the same as meeting in person, it provides a sense of normalcy and reinforcement that we aren't going through this alone. So I've already lit my chalice, but I forgot to say any opening chalice lighting words. So let me just do that now. Each morning we hold out the chalice of our being to receive, to carry, and to give back. May we know once again that we are not isolated beings, but connected in mystery and miracle to the universe, to the community, and to each other. And now please join me in reading our covenant and then singing our song of affirmation. So because Zoom can only hear one voice at a time, keep your microphones muted for this, but read along with the covenant and the words from your homes. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another.
Good morning, everyone. Whether you've come here with heart full or heart empty, with spirits high or low, rested or tired, hopeful or despairing, whether you've come here out of habit, conviction, loneliness, or curiosity, you belong here because you are here. And all that you are and all that you have done is welcomed here. This morning, we are together, and it is good. It is good to see so many familiar faces and so many new faces joining us, maybe from Orange County, possibly from across the country. It's good to be with you all. Welcome to Tapestry. This morning, I have a story for our young and young at heart, our time for all ages. It's called All I See is Part of Me, I'm sure the young among us have not forgotten that today is Easter Sunday. Hopefully you weren't forgotten on this important holiday too by our furry friends. I wanted to share this story with you. You've heard it a few times, but Easter is about big things, forever sorts of things. So this story reminded me from our Unitarian Universalist perspective that we also have a sense of the big and the universal and the forever. So this is called All I See is Part of Me. I am a part of all I see, and all I see is part of me. I am my hands, I am my feet, I am the puppy across the street. I am the moon, I am the stars, I'm even found in candy bars. I used to think that I was small, a little body and that was all. But then one day I asked the sun, "Who are you?" He beamed, "We are one." But Mr. Sun, how is this true? How can I be both me and you? He smiled, "You might ask your sister star. She too is part of who you are." And so I waited till the night when darkness let me see her light. Sister star, how can it be that I am you and you are me? She glowed, "You're larger than you know. You are every place there is to go. You have a body, this is true, but look at what's inside of you." I closed my eyes to see within. I saw a light. It made me grin. I remembered. It reminded me of Sister Star. She said, "That light is who you are. Your body is just a part of the light that shines within your heart. In all the world and all of space, your light shines bright, it's every place. And when you join it dot to dot, you'll see that you is what you've got. All the plants, the animals, and trees are in your light, and you are these. Look inside each one you meet and see your light. It's so complete. Inside, outside, below, above, see your light and feel its love. You're asking you when you ask me. So you know everything, don't you see? I looked again at all my light and saw that Sister Star was right. For every question there could be, the answer is inside of me. All I ever had to do was ask the part of me that knew. And then I said, there's something more. Each question opens up a door. And every door I walk through leads to a part of me that's new. Thank you so much, Sister Star. I love the part of me you are. I wondered as I climbed in bed, does all of me sleep when I rest my head? And then a voice, I guess was me, replied and spoke most lovingly. Even when you sleep, you're awake in every shining star. I snuggled with my teddy bear, and in his light, I saw me there. You are me, and I am you. You love me, I love you too. I closed my eyes and found my light, dancing with moonbeams in the night. I said a prayer I know was heard, 'cause all I am hears every word. And I can see in all of me that there can be no end. Here ends our story. I hope you guys have a wonderful Easter morning and some fun time with Rob in your religious education classes. And it's good to see you all.
I am Our reading for this week is a poem in 3 parts called Holy Week Triptych by Molly Hoosh Gordon. Part 1, At the Gate. He came in on a donkey, but we greeted him like a king. The crowd was huge that day, as though all of Jerusalem's poor, tired, downtrodden had flooded into the streets, had risen up from the streets. Where we lay, had risen up, waving palms, had put down our only coat to shield him from the mud. We had heard about him. You see his miracles of healing, his acts of love. We had heard how he had touched the lepers, eaten with the poor, turned over the tables in the temple. We knew he had come to preach peace and justice. We thought he had come to save us. Can you imagine a hope like that? You are desperate. You are starving. You are praying for relief. And here he comes. Here he comes. He is everything. He is loving and kind. He is righteous and angry. He is humble and powerful. And he cares about us, the outcast, the prisoner, the lowest of the low. Can you imagine a hope like that?
At the cross. No, this cannot be. The man who came in like a king, our hero, trudging forward like a common thief, spat upon, insulted, betrayed. He carried our hopes, our dreams, our need, and now he carries a cross. Bruised, bloodied, weak, how could he be beaten? How could he fail us? How could we fail him? Standing by, helpless, or urging them on? No, it cannot be. We are not to blame. We are too powerless, too small. We watched them mock our hope with the crown of thorns, and then they brought out the nails. That is when I turned away. I couldn't watch, but I could hear. Father, forgive them, he said as he died. That was what broke me. Father, forgive them, with his last breath. Father, forgive us. And now he is gone. The hands that healed us, the ears that heard us, the heart that beat for us. He is gone. He gave us hope. He gave us purpose. He loved us, and he is gone.
At the tomb. Weeping may last for a night. Weeping may last for 1,000 nights. But joy comes in the morning. That morning, we went to our beloved teacher's tomb. We went to anoint his body. We carried oil and cloths. We came to the tomb in sorrow, heads bowed low. But hope does not die so easily. It flickers inside, buried somewhere deep. Hope grows, blossoms like a rose, even through stone, even in hearts frozen by grief. When we arrived at the place where he lay, we dropped all that we carried, in wonder, in fear, to see the tomb laid open and our beloved gone. "Do not weep," said the man. "This morning we rejoice. Love lives. Hope lives. Jesus is not here," he said. "Come and see. He is risen. Our beloved is risen. Our hope is risen. Can it be? Can it be?"
This morning, what I want to share with you is actually a meditation written by a colleague, Nathan Walker, excuse me. I have heard in our Wednesday evening meditation times that the sort of mantras have been helpful for people in this time of difficulty. So this morning, I thought I would use some more of those as we continue that exercise, and hopefully it will be helpful. So if you would sit back in a comfortable position, maybe close your eyes and feel connected to this community that is so far apart in space, but so together in spirit. Breathing in, I am aware of my pain. Breathing out, I am aware that I am not my pain. Breathing in, I am aware of my past. Breathing out, I am aware that I am not my past. Breathing in, I am aware of my anger. Breathing out, I am aware that I am not my anger. Breathing in, I am aware of my despair. Breathing out, I am aware that I am not my despair. Breathing in, I am aware of peace. Breathing out, I am aware that I am worthy of peace. Breathing in, I am aware. Breathing out, I am aware that I am worthy of love. Breathing in, I am aware of joy. Breathing out, I am aware that I am an agent of joy. Breathing in, I am aware of hope. Breathing out, I am aware that I am an agent of hope. In this short time of silence that follows, let us continue to breathe together as one community, separated by distance but united in love. We join now in community in a time of silent meditation. Easter is a bit of an odd holiday for us, Unitarian Universalists. Coming out of a Christian history, we can't completely ignore Easter. For those who aren't aware exactly what Easter is all about, Easter is the most sacred day in the Christian tradition. It commemorates the day that Christians believe the disciples returned to the tomb where Jesus was buried, and there they found that the tomb was empty. Traditionally, Christians believe that Jesus was resurrected. Some Christians, though, believe that Easter is all about the fact that in the face of that fear and loss, the community of followers found hope and continued to spread his message of radical love. For Christians, the miracle of resurrection proves the legitimacy of Jesus. More than that, it demonstrates that life is available through relationship with God. Life in the face of death. It's a symbol of something bigger than this life, something so big, so universal that it lasts forever. In our Unitarian Universalist tradition, with all the diversity of belief and the engagement in social justice and environmental issues, it can sometimes feel like we don't have a similar sort of foundational, forever kind of faith. But there is a there. Today, I want to share with you one of our Unitarian Universalist visions of that big, universal, forever kind of faith. Usually at this time of year, to celebrate Easter, we celebrate the spring and the natural renewal of life. But this year, it turns out that Earth Day is next week, so we'll talk about the spring then. And flower communion, the ritual that we usually do at Easter, is probably getting pushed back until June due to coronavirus. So instead of the spring or flower communion, this year I want to lean on one of the most important Unitarian thinkers and leaders, Theodore Parker, to talk about what forever or really permanent stuff might look like. These days, Theodore Parker is most commonly quoted for his iconic phrase, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice." I know you have heard that. Abraham Lincoln borrowed that phrase from Parker along with many, many other ideas. Parker was a hugely influential Unitarian minister in the 1800s. He led the largest church in Boston at the time, with around 3,000 people attending every week to hear him. So please don't try to tell me that Unitarians aren't into big church. Back in the day, we had some of the biggest. Parker was known for speaking up for the abolition of slavery and making personal sacrifices for the cause. He sheltered people who had escaped slavery in his own home, and notoriously, he kept a loaded pistol in his desk drawer. He saw it as his duty to physically defend the people that he was sheltering, if necessary. He's a pretty fascinating and overlooked figure of American history, but one sermon in particular set him up as a real shaper of Unitarianism. On May 19th, 1841, Theodore Parker preached "The Transient and the Permanent in Christianity." Parker lived and preached in a time when Unitarians, even those really far left Unitarians, still saw themselves as Christian, hence the title of his sermon and the core of its message. He laid the groundwork for Unitarianism flowering out of our Christian roots to grow into our own unique faith tradition. He argued that the core of Christianity, the permanent part, was a profoundly simple message of loving one another and respecting the sacred. Everything else, and I mean everything else, is extra baggage. He said, "In actual Christianity, there seem to have been, ever since the time of its earthly founder, two elements. The one transient, the other permanent. The one is the thought, the folly, the uncertain wisdom, the theological notions, the impiety of man. The other, the eternal truth of God. These two bear perhaps the same relation to each other as the phenomena of outward nature, such as sunshine and cloud, growth, decay, and reproduction, bear to the great law of nature, which underlies and supports all these. So sermons were a little more densely worded in the 1840s, so let me unpack that a little bit. Parker is saying that there's a version of faith that's focused on the doctrines and the institutions, and another kind of faith that's focused exclusively on the sacred. It's similar to the difference between songbirds and a mountain and clouds and a baby on the one hand, and the overarching laws of nature that make those things possible on the other hand. Parker invites us to set our sights on the bigger picture, the overarching laws of nature that make life possible, and the sacred that inspires religious institutions, rather than the institutions themselves. In his sermon, Parker is very strategic in talking about each of the pieces of Christianity that people typically think of as the tradition. One by one, he points out how they aren't permanent foundation of faith. He writes, anyone who traces the history of what is called Christianity will see that nothing changes more from age to age than the doctrines taught as Christian, and instead on an essential to Christianity and personal salvation. What is falsehood in one province passes for truth in another. The heresy of one age is the orthodoxy and the only infallible rule of the next. He talks about the Bible specifically. As I've heard some of our modern Unitarians point out sometimes, he just notices that the Bible contradicts itself. It doesn't mean it's not great and inspiring, but it's not perfect. And it's not an irrefutable, forever kind of thing. It's a transient thing, an extra to the core of faith. From the Bible, Parker moves on to point out that theology isn't the permanent piece either. He talks about different doctrines of different churches changing over time. I think his most powerful quote in that regard is, he says, "Men are burned for professing what men are burned for denying." To me, that's one of the most striking critiques of orthodoxy I've ever heard. Men are burned for professing what men are burned for denying. How then could doctrines be the permanent truth? If no two people in history agree on theology in exactly the same way, surely those ideas will pass away with time. After talking about theology and the Bible, Parker let fly the really shocking piece of his sermon. The passage that I believe laid the groundwork for Unitarianism becoming what it is today. He wrote, "So if it could be proved, as it cannot, in opposition to the greatest amount of historical evidence ever collected on any similar point, that the Gospels were the fabrication of designing and artful men, that Jesus of Nazareth had never lived, still Christianity would stand firm and fear no evil. None of the doctrines of that religion would fall to the ground, for if true, they stand by themselves." I want to read that little piece again because it's so important to who we are today. He wrote, "So if it could be proved that the Gospels were a fabrication of designing and artful men, that Jesus of Nazareth had never lived, still Christianity would stand firm and fear no evil." For Parker, there was a core to Christianity, a truth so deep that it didn't even need the person of Jesus. It's a truth about loving our neighbors as ourselves and really working to maintain a relationship with the sacred. It's a very, very simple core core message. He compared the teachings of Jesus to the teachings of other great prophets or teachers. He said, "It's hard to see why the great truths of Christianity rest on the personal authority of Jesus more than the axioms of geometry rest on the personal authority of Euclid or Archimedes. The authority of Jesus, as of all teachers, one would naturally think, must rest on the truth of his words and not their truth on his authority." The Bible, at least understanding it as perfect, and the countless pages of Christian theology, and even the person of Jesus himself, are add-ons to the core permanent message. What is the core permanent message? It's about loving our neighbors as ourselves and maintaining a relationship with the sacred. For Parker and these early Unitarians, our salvation wasn't wrapped up in a Christ who lived 2,000 years ago, but by the way we cultivate our own hearts and live our daily lives. There are some who will say that love is too simple, it's too easy of an answer for such a grand question. As someone who really enjoys theology and reading and debating about it and thinking about it, part of me also wants to say love, that one little word, that's way too easy. But loving more fully is no simple act. It's the most difficult demand that religion makes on our lives. It's not a squishy, sentimental, abstract idea either. You use are willing to sacrifice to uphold the worth and dignity of every person. Remember, Parker was more than a preacher. He was also a courageous activist, a defender of real, vulnerable human lives. Sheltering people who had escaped slavery was a felony. And it seems that he was willing to physically defend those people if the need arose. Maybe not all to the same degree, but each of us does what we can in our daily lives to defend, to honor, to care for, to love our neighbors. Our great commandment comes with slightly different words, but we believe that every person is sacred and worthy of a chance. And we believe that deep down there's a unity that makes us one. We do what we can day by day to shape our lives to adhere to that reality. It's a simple faith, but it's certainly a worthwhile foundation. I know today's sermon had an inordinate amount of historical reference and talk about God. I'm sorry if that wasn't the most riveting or made some of you squirm. So thank you for being patient. I wanted to share this with you today for a reason, though. We sometimes think that Unitarian Universalism is a newcomer religion, or that we have small ideas. This Easter Sunday, in the wake of Passover and just before the holy month of Ramadan, I want to remind us of the tradition that we inherit. Although Theodore Parker picked Christian tradition apart in a pretty unrelenting way, he still understood himself as a Unitarian Christian. I have zero intention of diminishing the Christian tradition that we grow out of. But just as Parker explained over 170 years ago, we don't need all the pieces of religion, the books or the institutions or the dogma, to have a deep, deep connection to the message of love that's at the heart of the tradition. A love that is always and forever. a sense of mutuality and interconnectedness that is foundational to the universe. If we choose to take up the responsibility, that forever kind of faith is there for us as Unitarian Universalists too. Amen. We now move into our time for sharing our gifts. This month, in general, we've moved our worship services online, and while nothing is like being together in person, most of our worship service has transferred pretty nicely to an online format, except for the offering, the sharing our gifts. Exercising generosity is an important part of our worship experience in a lot of religious traditions. It's not quite as easy as passing the basket down the rows, but when you have time, please follow the link to share our gifts. This month, the recipient of Tapestry's generosity is Camp de Benneville Pines. When you follow the link to give online, you'll have an option to give directly to Tapestry or to help support this beloved organization beyond our walls. So now we get to enjoy some more incredibly beautiful music from the talented Hunker Friedman family. And as we do, may you be moved to generosity.
In order to hear that music, I'm going to try one more thing. I'm going to try to reconnect our computer, which seems to have disconnected. And despite the fact that we practiced this 3 times yesterday, it didn't work as it was supposed to today. So hopefully I have been able to make that change, and I'm going to give it one more try.
I will now extinguish my candle, my chalice, and I invite those of you at home who have also lit a candle or a chalice to extinguish yours as well. And these are our words that go with our chalice extinguishing. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Friends, may love permeate your every heartbeat. May faith guide your every step. May truth and compassion be your eternal traveling companions. Now go in peace. Let the light within you be a blessing to the world.
Thank you, Kent.